Hello and welcome to today's presentation, which is part of our CIO series. Large corporations have CIO positions. The CIO typically analyzes security systems and sets policies that balance security, usability, and costs. In a small and medium-sized business environment, where the CIO role is cost prohibitive, we encourage business owners and executives to attain a basic understanding of information technology systems. Not to set up systems themselves, but rather to engage with us in dialogue about creating policies that affect costs of IT, data confidentiality and availability, and an overall IT strategy for the business. At Falcon IT Services, we offer baseline policies for your IT systems, but IT is not a one-size-fits-all. We prefer to open dialogue with our business clients and make recommendations and listen to you, our clients, to have input before setting policies. We hope that you enjoy this presentation, and as always, please send your feedback and recommendations to miguel@falconitservices.com. Hello and welcome to today's presentation on BYOD, or Bring Your Own Device to Work. So what is BYOD exactly? According to Wikipedia, BYOD, which also has a few other acronyms as you can see here, refers to the policy of permitting employees to bring personally owned devices, laptops, tablets, or smartphones, to their workplace and use those devices to conduct business or to access privileged information that is normally reserved for corporate devices. This phenomenon is commonly referred to as IT consumerization. Now, BYOD is making significant inroads in the business world, with about 75% of employees in high growth markets and 44% in the developed markets already using their own technology at work. Surveys have indicated that businesses are unable to stop employees from bringing personal devices into the workplace, and research is divided on the benefits of BYOD. One survey shows that around 95% of employees state that they use at least one personal device for work. Now, there are some benefits to BYOD. Millennials, they're self-learners, they're more inclined to collaborate, and they are oriented toward being their own mode of production. They're also computer savvy, and by allowing them to bring their own devices and perhaps a variety of devices, you empower them and make them more productive. In addition, one benefit is that there is no cost of procuring and maintaining corporate devices when users are using their own devices, since they will be doing the purchasing and maintaining of those devices themselves. And of course, you get more productivity if you allow users with their own devices to be able to work remotely and have anytime, anywhere access. Now, in order to gain some of these benefits and to avoid some of the pitfalls, it's important to create a BYOD policy. In 2012, only 44% of businesses had written BYOD policies in place, and that number increased to 94% in 2014. So obviously, this was the year that businesses realized that in order to avoid some of the pitfalls of having their employees bringing those devices to work and possibly creating some issues, they would create written policies in order to have control over what devices are used and what those devices can access and what the rules are going to be pertaining to those devices. A written BYOD policy lets users know what is and what is not permitted. Before creating the company's BYOD policy, all stakeholders should sit and discuss what are the benefits and what are some of the pros and the cons of BYOD. And all stakeholders should include the management, the executive, and the IT staff. So what are some of the pitfalls of BYOD smartphones and tablets? Well, one of them is security. How many users actually have antivirus on their tablets or on their smartphones? Unlike in a corporate environment where policies dictate that each machine must have a antivirus program that's condoned by the company, BYOD devices may either have consumer grade protection for security or they may have none at all. It's also difficult to restrict access to work-related sites only on a BYOD devices. Many companies restrict access to work-related sites on their corporate devices. This helps to increase productivity and it also greatly increases security. But a user-owned BYOD devices, it's very difficult to restrict access since those devices will usually be taken home and used for non-work purposes. Apps installed on these devices also create an issue. Some of these apps can view contacts, share pictures or view pictures, and read emails. And if you have or if you store sensitive data on the BYOD device, that data may be seen by entities which shouldn't have privilege to access that data. BYOD devices are also often taken home and they're used by a number of people. A laptop may be used by an entire family, including kids. So if you have your corporate data on a BYOD device that's being used by multiple people and you have information in there that's private and should not be disclosed, that information may be viewable by people that should not have access to it. Also, personal devices cannot be viewed or altered by the enterprise. So you can't simply say to a person whom you are whom you have an issue with the device and maybe your IT department needs to take a look at it. Hand over your device, give it to me, I want to wipe it. You just simply can't go and do a remote wipe if an employee leaves the corporation because you would be wiping their personal information along with your company's information, and that could create an HR problem. So as you can see, BYOD devices are not quite as flexible. So what is the solution? Well, if you want to have a BYOD device in the workplace and avoid some of these pitfalls, there are several things that you could do. Smartphones, for example, you can install antivirus on the smartphone, a corporate version of your antivirus for smartphones. And you can also, an even more secure method is to sandbox your corporate applications. By sandboxing, your applications, emails, or whatever the application might be, will run on a separate container that is inaccessible by the rest of the applications on that device. This would greatly increase security. And if a user leaves the organization, you can wipe only the sandbox and the application and data that's inside that sandbox without wiping the entire device. So what are the solutions for desktops? Well, you can run a virtual desktop environment on an RDP server and allow users with BYOD to access these virtual desktops and to work from these desktops. The benefit that this has is not only would it make the user's hardware have several options. For example, it wouldn't matter if the user is running a Mac or a PC. They could both access a remote desktop server. And secondly, the applications and your data would run on this remote desktop server in a virtual operating system. So that means that the applications and the data will never leave that server. They will never be on the user's PC. So if a user leaves the organization, there won't be any data on that PC that you would need to wipe because all the data would always be located on the remote desktop server. Users can VPN in and be restricted to accessing only the RDP server. This would increase security and it would avoid one of the pitfalls, which is infected devices being brought into your network with the potential of infecting the rest of your network. If you allow remote users to VPN in and only to be able to access that one RDP server, then the virtual application is allowed to access the rest of your network. So you're in effect restricting access to only one device on the network. And of course, if a user brings their laptop into work, you can use the same type of method by restricting access only to a remote desktop server through a firewall policy. And to do this, you would create a guest Wi-Fi zone that is separate from the rest of your network and allow BYOD devices to connect only to that guest zone. And then that guest zone would not have access to your internal network except maybe for that one RDP server. So this, you basically be constricting the access and having much better security. Of course, if you have users that bring BYOD devices for personal use, for example, many employees bring their cell phones into work and they connect to the company's Wi-Fi so that they don't have to use their data plans. If you have employees and you're allowing them to bring their personal phones into work, you should have a guest Wi-Fi zone that is separate from the rest of your network in a separate firewalled subnet, so that if any of these phones are infected or any of these laptops that are being brought in and connected to the Wi-Fi are infected, that they will not cause a problem to your internal network. Well, we thank you for watching today's presentation, and as always, if you have any feedback, please contact me at miguel@falconitservices.com.